have a quick chat with Mike Buckley, who's going to talk to us about this big announcement by Keir Starmer. Mike, do you agree with our caller? Is Keir just driving us back towards a closer relationship with the EU?
Keir's accepting the economic certainty and fact that if we want our economy to function, if we want a growing economy, if we want this country to thrive, if we want business and industry to thrive, if we want people to have jobs, have wage increases, have tax cuts even, we have to have a closer trading relationship with the EU. That was said many times between 2016 and 2020.
Yeah, but why? Can I just push you on that? Because that's really interesting.
That's been proven since then.
Well, has it been proven? Because if you look at the figures that came out, we're trading more than we ever did with the EU, both by volume and value, since Brexit. And we've got, so why do we need to be a member of the EU to trade with them if we're trading more with them now than we ever have before when we were in the bloc?
I mean, the closest comparison I can make that will hopefully explain things is obviously there's war in Russia. So think about that. So our response to Russian aggression has been to put sanctions on them, which means that we make it more difficult for them to trade with other countries in the world by putting barriers in place. The Brexit deal that Boris Johnson negotiated for us effectively puts sanctions on our own country. It increases costs for business, increases costs for industry, makes it more expensive to trade. So
but yet we've traded more than ever before.
You're right. Still a huge amount of trade with the EU, of course. It's our largest trading partner. It's always going to be our largest trading partner. But nonetheless, we have effectively put shackles on the feet of British business and industry by the inadequacy of the deal. This isn't about Brexit or no Brexit. This is about, do we want a Brexit deal that works for the UK, it works for British business and industry, or do we not? At the moment, we don't have one.
So do you think Keir Starmer's changed his mind? Because he's consistently, up until 2021, certainly campaigned for a second referendum, and he said he would campaign for Remain. Do you think he's changed his mind and accepted the reality of Brexit?
Brexit has happened. I mean, it isn't going to get undone, certainly in this political generation. What we need to do now, whatever our views were in 2016 or 2019, we've got to make the best of what I would say is a bad job. And Keir Starmer has recognised that. Nobody's talking about undoing Brexit. Even if we wanted to undo Brexit, it is not impossible. There is no way that the EU is going to open negotiations.
It's not possible, you mean, not impossible, just to be clear. You're saying it's not possible, not impossible.
It is not possible for us to rejoin the EU at any time in the foreseeable political future because the EU are not interested in that happening. So even if we wanted it, it ain't happening.
Well, thank heaven for small mercies is all I can say. But look, on the issue, to give Keir Starmer his due, this Brexit deal has to be renegotiated in 2025 in any event. So this is not new. If you had a Conservative government and a Conservative Prime Minister, they would to some extent have to revisit this. Do you think Keir Starmer, you've seen him sort of cozying up with Emmanuel Macron and going to a summit, I think, in Canada and sort of cozying up with Justin Trudeau, like leaders of the opposition do if they think they're well placed to win the next general election. Do you think Keir Starmer will get a better deal out of the EU than Rishi Sunak could? And if so, why?
I mean, I'll just correct you on that. What's happening in 2025 or 2026 is not a renegotiation. What's planned is simply a review of how the deal is operating.
Oh, so is Keir Starmer planning to go further and renegotiate them?
He is, but if we elected Rishi Sunak, he would do the same thing. Both of them have said they want growth to increase. They want the economy to do better in this country. The single best thing that either one of them could do is get a better deal with the EU. In fact, Rishi Sunak has already proven that he is willing to do that with the Windsor Framework on Northern Ireland, by rejoining Horizon, and by a number of other things that he has done. Whoever is elected next time around, they will take us into a better relationship with the EU. That does not mean undoing Brexit. It simply means making Brexit work. And at the moment, it's working pretty badly for our country.
Well, I fundamentally disagree with you that it's working badly for our country. And I think the figures, we'll just have to agree not to agree on that. Let me fast forward to a general election. We sort of get to the moment the exit poll comes out and either Keir Starmer or Rishi Sunak are going to be our next Prime Minister. What would either of them put in their manifesto to have a mandate to renegotiate this? And people will remember, whatever your view on Brexit, people will remember the chaos that took place when Parliament couldn't agree what Brexit should or shouldn't look like. What would either of them put in their manifesto to have a mandate to do this from the British people?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why Keir has said what he's said in the last few days. I mean, he's setting his stall out. People in the country now know that if they vote for the Labour Party at the next general election, Keir Starmer will go to Brussels and he will say, this agreement isn't good enough for the UK, I want a better one. And he will set out very clearly what that looks like. And there's a list of, quite obvious things that would include that Boris Johnson deliberately left out, knowing that nonetheless that would damage the UK and in the end make life more expensive for all of us. I mean, for example, the food prices that have gone up, a huge proportion of the food price inflation hasn't come from the war in Ukraine, hasn't come from Liz Truss's disastrous budget. It's come from the increased cost of checks and trade that has to take place.
Well, hold on. We saw Brexit blamed for the increase in the price of tomatoes and the shortage of tomatoes. Of course, that was really caused by an unusual frost in North Africa. So Brexit gets blamed for everything.
It's not that simple. The world is far more complicated than that. You can't just blame one frost for the fact that food prices have gone up a staggering amount.
Well, the frost was blamed for the failure of the tomato crop. Look, thank you very much. I've got a feeling that we are going to be talking about this every moment, every second of every day up until the general election. I'm sorry to break it to you live